Hey everybody, it's Marguerite from the DIY Duo, and today's meal prep for John's heart healthy recipe is going to be roasted vegetables. So we've got ourselves some fresh organic beets over here, we've got organic onions, we have sweet potatoes, romanesco broccoli, I love it. And then look at this head of cauliflower. And we've got some peppers. We're going to cut everything up except for the beets. The beets actually are going to be roasted separately in the oven. They're going to be covered in foil and they're going to be roasted at 375. Everything else you see here is going to get diced up, tossed in a pan with olive oil, and that's going to cook in the oven for 425. When I dice the onions, I really like to kind of keep them in pretty big chunks. Once they roast, they actually sort of caramelize and melt down, and they are super delicious. We're not going to use a lot of salt because, again, John can't have a lot of salt, but it's not going to be necessary. So I wash these. Again, any veggies, I wash, I dry, and these are going to get cut up same way. I'm just going to, now I'm going to take my little paring knife, because that's just easier to use. I'm going to take all the seeds out. And you can leave them split in half, but I'm going to split them in half again. Okay, I did the same thing with this beautiful head of cauliflower. I soaked it in water, made sure that we washed it. We're going to pull out all of these leaves that are left at the base, and we're going to start cutting these into florets that go into the pan to be roasted. We'll do the same thing with the romanesco. All right, we have plenty of cauliflower and romanesco broccoli and some left over for us to just use raw. We will dip it in hummus, we'll dip it in homemade tzatziki. We will put that to good use. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to peel the skin off of the sweet potatoes, and then we're going to dice them into small little discs. Everything goes in the pan. Once our beets are out of the oven, we're going to raise the oven to 425, and the pan of all of these veggies goes in and roasts. Okay, so I peeled the sweet potatoes, but I'm going to have them soaking in water so that they don't turn brown while I start to assemble everything in the pan. Okay, so my Pyrex roasting dish is out. My favorite olive oil that seems to be on back order at Trader Joe's. We found out that it's not going to be available again for over a month. It is actually 100% Greek Kalamata oil. Comes from Greece. The only olive oil I use. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I am going to coat the bottom of the pan. Kind of spread it around. I'm going to make sure that the sides are also coated so that the veggies don't stick to it. A theme is here to just make sure that she picks up anything that drops. Little does she know they're veggies and she's not really a fan of them, but she doesn't know that right now. Okay. So, let's take our romanesco. There's no rhyme or reason, I just throw things in the pan. Oops.
Uh-oh.
That's okay, Athena will go get it. We'll clean that before we put it back in the pan, just to be safe. Just to be safe. Ah, John's cleaning it for me. Isn't he the best? Okay, we're going to add our onions and our peppers. Thank you. John, you want to come in the camera and say hi to people?
Right, I'm next to the master cook.
Our hair matches.
She knows what she's doing. I do not.
Last week we were in the process of dyeing our hair, so John looked a little orangey. Now the two-step henna process is done, and we both have our normal hair color back. I love it. All right. So this is all assembled. Now, we're not done with the olive oil. I am going to cut these up. I'm going to mix them in. So there's no secret way to do it. Literally, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to cut the end off. And I'm just going to cut them into discs. Not too thick, not too thin, because I want them to cook along with these veggies. So I don't want them to get too mushy waiting for the vegetables to cook, and I don't want them to stay hard once the other vegetables are done. And just be very careful when you use your knives, because you don't want to cut your fingers. And I'm just going to start placing them in the pan, and once I'm done with that, you'll see I'll top it with a little bit of oil again, salt, maybe a couple of the secret ingredients that come to mind. I'm going to generously drizzle with the olive oil. I feel like I'm just going to use up the rest of our orange juice, and I'm going to pour the orange juice, in the pan here, because that's going to also give some flavor to these vegetables, because we're not going to heavily salt them. And let's face it, salt always brings out the best flavor in vegetables. And I'm going to use the rest of my Tupelo honey, and if you've never ever tried Tupelo honey before, you have no idea what you're missing. To me, it is the absolute best honey you can possibly ask for. Such a nice, smooth flavor, and it doesn't crystallize, ever. I've not ever seen it crystallize in my cabinet. And so I'm going to now very lightly salt, and I'm going to use a different salt actually. Don't mind this cabinet full of all sorts of stuff. We do a lot of cooking here. I am going to use my Greek salt, which I highly recommend this salt if you can get it. It's called cauliflower salt. Again, it's Greek sea salt. And the reason why I'm using this is because this salt is actually potassium chloride and not sodium chloride. And sodium is what is, oops, done again, is what is not good for the heart. So I'm just going to gently season this with my cauliflower salt. And off camera, I'm going to very gently toss this. Okay, this has been gently tossed. I'm just going to shake a little bit more salt. This is actually... Okay. I'm going to cover it in foil, and it's going in the oven. I'm going to check on it in about a half an hour. Probably give it another toss, and maybe it's another 20 minutes to a half an hour before it's all roasted and done. Okay, it's been a half an hour. Let's see how these are looking. They're looking pretty good. Let me just shut this off for a moment. And I'm going to gently turn things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, once I'm done stirring this, I'm going to put it back in the oven for 15 minutes with the foil on, and then another 15 minutes with the foil off, and then I think it'll be done. So I have the beets here. They've been cooling off since the other veggies have been in the oven. And it sounds like they are now ready. So let's see what that looks like. Oh. I would say they are. I would say they are. If I look at them, they have a little bit of charring, which is fine. Nothing stuck at all to the bottom of the pan. I'm just going to let these cool down. I'm going to cut up the beets, and we've got a whole tray of beautiful, organic, roasted veggies to eat with dinner tonight and probably every night this week. And here is the finished product, also the beets. I took them and I skimmed them once they got warm. Let's give it a taste. Pretty darn good. Perfect. Not much salt, but with a little bit of honey and the orange juice gives it a nice flavor. So, Don asked for pizza, so we're going to have this with some homemade pizza coming up. All right. Your buddy Athena is with you, John. She wants to make sure that she gets a slice also.
Yes.
You ready to taste test?
Yes, I'm ready to taste that. Very tasty, very nice.
All right. Dinner is served.